Continuing innovations, connecting devices, machines, connected people, cars, homes, transport, everything surrounding us is an open system where you can just plug yourself in anytime you want. To solve the puzzle of smart connections, please welcome Cisco's Managing Director for Internet of Things, Sales, Research and Development in the region of Europe, the Middle East, Africa and Russia, Bernd Heinrichs.
Thank you. I never got such an introduction. That is really impressive. I should stop talking now because my speech is less interesting than the announcement now. So let me start with a private story. My uncle came to Germany. He's living in Nice. In his old age, was 80 years old, he came back to Germany and celebrated his birthday. And he had his family and friends around, and he made a speech and he started, "Thank you, Bernd." Everybody was looking at me and was surprised, and me as well. And then he gave the story. He said, you all know that I'm living in Nice, and I only could afford to live there because I talked to Bernd 19 years ago when he started at Cisco. And first of all, I got frustrated that I'm still with Cisco after 19 years, but then I thought about it. What did I tell him? I told him about Cisco, what we are doing, and that we are one of the highest rated companies in terms of valuation at that time. So not yet at the peak, but on a way up. So he bought stock and he sold them 3 years later, and he could afford to buy a flat in Nice based on that money. That was the beginning of his story. And then he said, I was lucky to sell it, and because the stock went down and never went up, more or less, right? And but that's not all. He said, now, when I'm living in Nice, I'm driving into the city center from the outside every day with my wife, 80 years old. He's a silver surfer, using his smartphone, using his iPhone in that case, and checking the parking lots which are available in Nice on the main streets. And there are 100,000 equipped with sensors, cameras, etc., which are signaling to the users of the smart apps, there is the next parking lot. And he's saying, I'm saving half an hour each day in getting a parking lot quite rapidly compared to what I had before. That is giving me lifetime back with 80 years. Second thing, what he likes is that in these areas, the pollution is going down 30%. So all visitors can see in Nice on some displays that carbon monoxide emissions are going down by 30%, by 20% compared to a year ago or so on, right? So because parking is really damaging the environment most. And the third thing he said, what I recognize as well is that the waste management companies are only coming when it is needed, when the waste baskets are stinking or if they are full. They are giving the information to the companies and they are collecting the waste. So all of that, he said, I like it. And I need to tell you, my dear guests, he said, I now understand after 19 years what Cisco can do and provide us with. And I tell you, buy Cisco stock. And he said it 3 months ago. Look at the Cisco stock. It rose about 30% since then. So that was the story. What is the story about? It's about the Internet of Things. It's about sensors. It's about sensors who are producing data. They are processed and people are using them, right? So, and it's a story in real, and we have about 250 cities globally. And we heard this morning from Plamen that Sofia should become one of the other ones who are joining this journey, becoming a real smart city. And that is an application for the Internet of Things. Let me move to this slide. That is the opening session of the World Economic Forum last year in Davos, taking place every year. And for the first time, not the politicians were sitting there or economists, it was IT leaders, right? It was John Chambers, Marissa Mayer, and others who are really talking about digitization and the impact of digitization on our economy, on the world economy of the future. And there were a few statements I said, it's happening globally. It's not happening only in Silicon Valley, it's happening globally. Second was, the digitization will neglect borders, so you need to open yourself, and an event like this is really a good entry point for this, and it's generating opportunities, but also risks. We believe, and we have done a deep dive into it. We call it the value at stake analysis. If you haven't read it, check on the internet, you find it. It is about losing or winning, right? And we heard it this morning. We believe there is 19 trillion value at stake on the market in the next 10 years, which goes to the winners and goes away from the losers. We believe, and that is what our CEO said at this event, even though we have 50 billion in cash, we will disappear from this market in 5 years from now as Cisco if we don't change completely. And that is what we are driving to, and that is one of my roads, driving innovation now, not only from Silicon Valley, but do it here in the region. And I'm not going into detail on that, but Berlin is a hub for us. I'm just opening, together with a team, the Open Berlin Innovation Center in Berlin, and we do similar things now in Central Europe and Eastern Europe, where we really want to attract to work with startups to make this Internet of Things thing happen. Because it doesn't happen in a company, it happens in cooperation with other companies, right? When you visit us in Berlin, you would see there is only a handful of Cisco people, but there are hundreds of externals, right? Because that is the way to go. At least we believe that. Let me jump into what is the Internet of Things and what we believe is. That is probably the start point. We are all using Airbnb, Uber, Square, some of you at least. Who is using Uber? It's getting more, so it's about a 20%. Airbnb, it's the same. Square, it's always the same. Only 1 or 2 are using Square. I should tell them. They should change their business model, I think. Why is that happening, and why a lot of more of these companies are popping up? Because we have these major trends or disruptors. Social, mobile, data, cloud, right? Everything is producing data, and we heard it from my colleague from SAP. Data is really the value, and we heard it this morning. Everybody wants to own the data. That is not clear, which is probably the biggest problem, who is owning the data. One more story. CEO of Continental, German car manufacturer of tools for the car, so supplying to the car industry. The CEO said to us, right, I'm investing since 5 years 50% of my R&D budget into data evaluation, externally and internally. And in 5 years from now, I'm planning to make 50% of my revenues by selling data to the car industry, to private drivers, to the community or whatever. I said I don't believe it, because there is a fight which is going on, who is owning the data. And it could be you guys, it could be us, it could be SAP, it could be, I don't know. So that is still going on, but everybody wants to own the data, and that is the most important value probably of the future. So when we talk about the Internet of Everything, I think, in principle, we talk about a similar thing than the Internet of Things. We just we define together with Gartner the term everything, because we want to differentiate that it is not only about things. Things are dumb, even though they become smarter and autonomous and all of that. But the important thing is the data they are producing. Things are producing data. Data is processed, and they are getting back into the cycle or getting to the people who are using them. That is really what we define as the Internet of Things. 4 components. Again, things, data, processes, people. And all around that, we are defining our use cases. By the way, and I don't get too much into it, we understand that we are coming from the connectivity play, but we want to change the world a little bit and to become a little bit higher on the value stack, not competing with the SAPs of the world. We cannot do that, but we see applications for an infrastructure or for a connectivity company to move up the stack. And I get a little bit into that now in the last minutes I have. Just one number on this, the 15 billion which we heard before of connected things we have nowadays. That represents about 1% of things you can connect in the world. And that means there is a lot to come, right? So we can do a lot. And we are happy about it, by the way, because we are still in the connectivity game, and we need to connect a lot of things also in the future. And maybe not the only ones to do that, but we are playing an important role. When we talk about the Internet of Things applications, we focus on industries. My main revenue streams are manufacturing and transport logistics, followed by oil and gas, energy, cities, and retail. These are the dominant market. We just built up a new company together with Bosch and ABB, and about 20 startups joining us into this company called Mosaic, and you find them on the web, which is all about home automation, because we believe home automation is going into trying to define standards, but doing it proprietary, because everybody wants to own it and they are not opening it. We want to make it a kind of a internet success, which we had, where we were driving open standards by defining IPv4, now IPv6, etc. And that is what we need in the home automation space. That is what we are doing. So that is, when we talk about the Internet of Things, we are talking about challenges which we have if we just use a traditional IT model. We call it the cloud model. Even though we are a believer in cloud, we believe there is also some challenges in the cloud in terms of limited bandwidth. Think about an oil platform. You have limited bandwidth really to communicate into the oil rig, communicate it into the cloud, and make it safe. In a manufacturing robot, you need to be taking care that it is in real time when you react. You need to act in real time on data which is coming out of the robot. And if you talk about construction, I'm just back from Dubai seeing all these cranes. They only can survive without really moving to each other by communicating to each other. And this has to be in a reliable way, in a secure way, in a safe way. And therefore you need to build intelligence into the cranes, data intelligence, and doing analytics in the crane. That is my message here. And I get to that concept in a minute, or on this chart, because this concept, and I don't go into the details into it, we call it the fog. You know the cloud? The cloud is far away in heaven somewhere, and there is a fog. The fog is a little bit mysterious and misty. It's on the ground. It's closer to the action. It is in the car. It is in the train. It is in the production floor. It is in a Formula One car. And I'll show you one example what it does. Formula One, this is McLaren example, and it's valid for all other Formula One cars, also for the good ones. So 2,500 sensors per Formula One car, producing data. 120 are connected to the engine. And they are tracking during the race all kind of different information. And guess what?